The time spent on assessment by students isn't easy to quantify, since most of the course workload, in fact, has something to do with assessment, indirectly or directly. Whether it's reading or exercises, group tasks, participating in lectures and tutorials or whatever. All of these, in a sense, are preparatory to assessment. And workload in general, however, is something which contributes to student success. Adequate workload is necessary. In other words, they have to put in the hours in order to succeed. But at the same time, excessive workload, including assessment workload, is something which can have a negative effect on student learning. They panic. They get absolutely drowned in work, and so they can't see the wood from the trees, and they don't learn so well. Workload also varies very widely from one course to another. We all know of lecturers who say, "Oh, my bit of the subject is the most important, so they have to read 1,000 papers, they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to do the other." And the students get completely swamped with workload in one course. In another course, the lecturer, the teacher may be more laid back and have an idea of what is a reasonable workload. So there can be wide discrepancies between one course and another. This is a case in which we have to talk to each other in a program so that we can distribute the workload nicely among the different courses in each semester. Nowadays, with the wide acceptance of credit systems related to student workload, we know theoretically that 1 credit equates to approximately 15 to 20 hours of total student work, including all tests and examinations. So a typical 10-credit course would demand about 200 hours of work from the students. Now, if we add up what these hours have to be divided among lectures, practicals, tutorials, reading, literature searches, preparing for and doing assignments and examinations, the 200 hours suddenly seems to diminish. If we further consider that reading for study purposes is a slow task, it's not like reading a novel, a difficult text can be estimated at a reading and processing speed of 40 words per minute for a native speaker, familiar with the type of discourse. Now, if you think of your average undergraduate student, maybe a second, third, or fourth user of English, reading an English text, I think that 40 words per minute is pretty optimistic. So a short paper of 2,000 words would take a minimum of an hour to read for a good reader. And for a second or third language user, who knows? How many words are our students expected to read during some of our courses? Well, in the lecturer who thinks that he or she is the most important member of staff, tons. But it's something worth thinking about. Then there's the time taken to prepare a written assignment, an essay perhaps. Again, we have to remember familiarity with the discourse type required, their language fluency, and so on. And I would guess that a 3,000-word essay would take a minimum of 10 hours to assemble after they've done the research for the content. And maybe as much again for some to finalize and polish, assuming that the student has good notes from reading and participation in learning sessions. How many lectures, how many tutorials, how many homeworks, and so on. This 200 hours isn't as much as you think it is. So collegially, we simply have to include in program and course planning and assessment planning a serious consideration of how much time our demands on the student are taking up. Not only might the assessment load be too high, or not, but we have to figure out whether the workload is appropriate in quantity and whether it's well distributed throughout the term or semester and throughout the year. Turning from the students to us, as resources per student have declined over the years, there have been economies of scale in teaching. We're the ones who bear the brunt, make no mistake about it, simply by packing more students into classrooms. So you have the same number of teachers, but far more students. Now, these economies of scale may be easy to make when we talk about teaching, but assessment costs must go up in direct proportion to the number of students, or the quality of marking cannot stay the same. As a result, assessment costs overtake teaching costs, and teachers can find themselves spending much of their time actually marking. It becomes an absolute millstone around your neck. You just get rid of one lot of marking and the next lot is waiting. Is all this effort worthwhile, and how can it be ameliorated? This is something we're going to be looking at during the course. But a question to ponder on. In the program you teach currently, do you know when other course tutors are setting assessment tasks? What kind of tasks they're setting? How they manage their marking load? What kind of working load are they inflicting on the students? And so on. Do you know these things?